Hey, that's me, and I'm a JRPG fan, partly by choice, but mostly because of my brothers. We're from a family of immigrants who escaped from war, and my oldest brother played a huge role in shaping my love for JRPGs. You see, when he was just a kid, my brother made a dangerous journey through the violent jungles of Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War with my parents. They eventually reached the US, where we found an unexpected escape: Japanese media. We're talking manga, anime, and most importantly, JRPGs. It all began with bootleg CDs of anime like Hajime no Ippo and the original 1997 Hunter x Hunter series. Watching those grainy CDs were some of the best times growing up as a kid, with Hunter x Hunter soon becoming my all-time favorite series. As one of the younger siblings, I pretty much lived and breathed whatever my brother brought back home. PlayStation, PlayStation 2, you name it. He introduced me to some of the greatest games: Legend of Dragoon, Legend of Mana, Suikoden, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Wild Arms, and so much more. There's one game that holds a special place in my heart, a game I've picked up over and over again, but never really quite finished: Khemia, Alchemists of Al-Revis, developed by Gust, the same studio behind the Atelier series. Gust sure knows how to make well-rounded characters.
For that reason, I'm out.
But Khemia was different for me. It wasn't just about the looks, it was about the atmosphere. The music was amazing, the characters overflowed with classic anime tropes, and the game took place in this chill, slice-of-life setting of an alchemy academy. Today, I'm finally doing something that I've always wanted to do: a review of nostalgic JRPG games that I've never really fully experienced, starting with Khemia, Alchemists of Al-Revis, one of my all-time favorite PS2 games. I'll dive into what makes this game so special, from its combat system to the unique item synthesis mechanic, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. The game opens with a somber narration from our protagonist, Vayne, as he recalls the moment he met his mana companion Sulfur. We then see Vayne and Sulfur approaching Al-Revis Academy, a prestigious institution for alchemy. A flashback takes us to Vayne's first encounter with Professor Zappel, who approached him in the forest with the intent of recruiting him to the academy. This scene establishes Vayne as a mysterious figure, living in the shadow of a once famous alchemist, and begins the central theme of Vayne's journey to uncover his identity. As the school bell rings, the mood shifts to a more upbeat and lighthearted tone, and we're introduced to various locations around the academy, all set to a cheerful soundtrack. After the orientation, we get a glimpse of Sulfur's surprisingly snarky personality. Once Vayne reaches his classroom, we're introduced to the first party member, Jess, an energetic and explosive pink-haired girl with a talent for synthesis, both literally and figuratively. Vayne and Jess explore the academy grounds before being recruited by Flay, a red-haired musclehead and self-proclaimed defender of justice, into his workshop. The workshop is one of the key locations in the game, where you'll spend a significant amount of time synthesizing items. It also serves as a hub where you can interact with your growing party. As they begin to settle into the workshop, Vayne meets another companion, Nikki, a beastman with an energetic spirit. Before long, the vice principal steps in to reprimand Flay for his slacker tendencies and gives the group an ultimatum: produce a Nicrocloth within 2 weeks or forfeit their right to the workshop. Khemia is divided into chapters, with each chapter representing a school term. These terms consist of multiple weeks, and the number of weeks can vary depending on the chapter. Each term typically begins and ends with a story event, while the weeks in between are marked as assignment weeks or free time. During assignment weeks, Vayne must visit the school affairs counter to choose an assignment. While the options are limited early on, they expand as the game progresses. Completing assignments earns you grades, and much like real school, better grades are highly incentivized. Assignments also serve as the game's tutorials, introducing players to game mechanics and encouraging them to explore deeper strategies. Grades are rather crucial in Khemia. Each term, Vayne needs to earn 8 stars to pass, with higher grades giving more stars. Doing well in assignments is key because it maximizes the amount of free time that you get, which is an essential part of the game. Vayne, Jess, and Nikki are then given their first assignment of the game by Professor Zappel and assigns them a gathering assignment in which to gather clear water, a blue petal, and a spinach herb, which can be found at the Living Forest. Within the academy, Vayne can explore a variety of locations, which at first seems like a cool feature, but many of these areas feel underutilized. Most locations don't offer much aside from some exploration and visual variety. The most crucial spots are the ones with shops, as after each term, the stock is refreshed with new items, including valuable recipes for synthesis. These recipes are vital for crafting stronger items, weapons, and armor, making it worth checking the shops regularly. Outside the academy, Vayne and his party can visit several unique locations like the Living Forest, the Dragon Grave, and the Heights. These areas are where you'll be spending time gathering essential materials needed for synthesis. One of the game's major drawbacks is its handling of movement. The 2D art style combined with a 3D plane of movement can make navigation frustrating. There are moments when you'll need to jump onto ledges or platforms, but the depth perception makes it hard to judge where you need to go or how to reach certain spots. As the party ventures into the vibrant Living Forest, they soon encounter a monster, marking their first battle. Since we're still early in the game, I'll just give a brief overview of the combat system. The battle system in Khemia follows familiar JRPG mechanics. 3 active allies, enemies, and key resources like HP and SP, which acts as your mana pool. However, the game introduces a few unique twists that keeps things fresh. At first, combat feels slow, especially when you're forced to conserve SP while exploring dungeons and gathering materials. But as you progress, the system reveals its depth. Damage is split between physical and magical types, with magic further divided into elements like fire, wind, lightning, and ice. Each character has their own unique skill set, adding a strategic layer to combat. For example, Vayne's Analyze ability reveals enemy information, including their HP, strengths, and weaknesses, which is crucial for exploiting elemental vulnerabilities. After defeating the monster, Vayne can continue exploring the Living Forest, gathering the necessary items for the assignment. Unlike many JRPGs, Khemia allows you to see monsters roaming around, and battles are optional. You can choose to engage or avoid them, giving you more control over when and how you fight. Khemia offers several ways to gather ingredient items during exploration. You can cut down grass, which occasionally drops item bags. You can also fish using a fishing pole, use a boomerang to knock fruits from trees, or fight monsters for their drops. I'm looking at you, angel and devil panties. The game heavily incentivizes full exploration of the map, as many chests contain essential synthesis recipes that you need to progress and craft better items. Trust me, you'll want to open every chest you find, even if you decide to trek down a long path only to find 500 coal within a chest and feel rage. While exploring new items is exciting at first, it starts to feel repetitive after a while. The maps are rather static and don't change when you revisit them, and you'll find yourself returning to the same areas repeatedly to gather materials, especially when fulfilling job requests during free time. After a few visits, you'll likely avoid monsters as much as possible, focusing on collecting what you need quickly rather than fighting. After obtaining the necessary items, Vayne can then utilize an item called the Wings of Icarus to return back to the academy at any time. Once Vayne hands Professor Zappel the ingredients, he gives Vayne's and the others a synthesis recipe for a heal jar and instructs them to synthesize it. Synthesizing is a core mechanic in Khemia, and it's a familiar system for anyone who's played games from the Atelier series. At its heart, synthesis involves finding and unlocking recipes to craft items, which can range from healing potions to weapons to armors and materials needed for future recipes. The loop of finding materials, crafting, and improving your creations is addictive and satisfying as you find yourself and your party get better at the process. Every material in the game has echo effects, special attributes that impact the final product. These effects can range from stat boosts like attack up small or defense up medium to adding new skills, most of which are magic based abilities like Blizzard, Hell Wave, or Ice Rain. Certain materials have static echo effects. For instance, the spinach herb always carries a healing effect. Items, with the exception of weapons, armor, and accessories, also come with an ether level rating, which can range from 0 to 100. Higher ether level ingredients generally result in a better final product, but the item's ether level is also influenced by the synthesis process itself. Additionally, each item is associated with one of the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, or wind, and this plays a role in how the synthesis unfolds. After gathering the necessary materials, you'll enter the synthesis circle. As you attempt to craft your item, the circle spins, and you need to press the button at the right time to match the right element. Aligning the synthesis circle's elements with your item's element boosts the item's ether level by +10. While mismatching decreases the ether level by -10. The elements interact in a rock, paper, scissors fashion. Water weakens fire, and so on. Mastering this part of the process is crucial, as different echo effects may appear based on the final item's ether level. Sometimes you'll want a higher ether level for stronger stat boosts, while other times lower ether level might yield better effects. Personally, I focus on getting every synthesis item to 100 ether level, or as close as I could, even if that meant sacrificing some of the unique echo effects found in lower qualities. It's a balancing act, and a lot of the fun comes from experimenting with different combinations of materials and effects. Co-op synthesis is basically alchemic group work, except unlike real group projects, your teammates actually contribute. Depending on the character, they can slow down the spinning synthesis circle, increase or decrease the ether level value, or even redo the entire synthesis if things go wrong. A new week begins, and Vane heads to the Student Affairs counter to grab the next assignment. But before heading out, Jess suggests stopping by the Atelier room, a special area where you can synthesize weapons, armor, and accessories. The group soon finds themselves in a red-hot, forge-like room, where they meet Moritz, a rather intimidating man with a stern, scary face. Despite his appearance, Moritz teaches them how to utilize the Atelier, a crucial skill for crafting stronger equipment and enhancing their gear. Weapon, armor, and accessory synthesis in Khemia works a little bit differently than standard item synthesis. When crafting these pieces of equipment, the echo effects from all the materials used get pooled together. Once the synthesis is complete, you'll have the option to choose 3 effects for the final product. The first effect must always be a common effect skill. The next 2 effects are more flexible, allowing you to pick from stat boosting effects like attack up or defense up, which makes it crucial to use high quality materials. These effects can significantly strengthen your characters, so paying attention to the ingredients you use is key. A unique aspect of equipment synthesis is that the echo effects you assign to a specific item are permanent. For example, if you craft an angel wing accessory with attack up as one of its effects, every angel wing you make from that point on will have the attack up effect, even ones that you've crafted before. This can be both a pro and a con. On the positive side, it lets you tailor your gear to your liking, creating powerful sets for your characters. On the downside, it can also limit customization if you want to use the same item on multiple characters with different needs. For example, Jess might benefit more from an angel wing with magic up instead of attack up. But once you've committed to attack up for the accessory, it will apply to all future and past angel wings unless you synthesize a new one to overwrite the old effect. This system encourages careful planning, especially with weapons, armor, and accessories, as you'll often want to equip the same accessory across multiple characters but with different effects. Another notable aspect of the synthesis system is how echo effects related to stats don't stack. For instance, if you have attack up large and attack up medium equipped onto a character, the smaller effect, attack up medium, will be grayed out and cancelled, and only the larger effect remains active. While this makes sense for balance purposes, this system encourages players to explore different combinations and use a variety of effects. it also restricts how much you can customize gear. The inability to stack effects, especially on equipment where you want to maximize specific stats, can be frustrating, limiting the feeling of full customization that many RPG fans enjoy. After successfully synthesizing an item, Moritz reminds the group about the Grow Book, which serves as Mana Khemia's unique leveling system. Unlike most JRPGs where leveling up is tied to linear experience gains, Mana Khemia takes a different approach. After battles, instead of traditional experience points, Vayne and his companions earn ability points. These ability points are then used within the Grow Book to unlock stat improvements and abilities. The Grow Book itself functions like a grid with various nodes, each containing a specific item, sometimes common, sometimes unique to each character. To unlock a node, Vayne must first synthesize the associated item. Once the item is crafted, the node becomes available for unlocking, but only if it's connected to an already unlocked node. This creates a strategic progression system, as players must unlock nodes in sequence. Each node contains up to 3 stat improvements, such as HP, SP, attack, magic, defense, resistance, and even speed. They can also include additional skills, both passive and active, that each character can learn. Unlocking these upgrades requires spending AP, which starts off cheap, but steadily increases as you progress through the game. This system incentivizes players to actively seek out recipes and synthesize as many items as possible in order to fully strengthen their party. This brings me to the difficulty of Mana Khemia. I remember the game feeling quite challenging, especially during the mid-game when I was younger and impatient. Back then, I probably didn't focus on synthesizing all the items I could each chapter, which resulted in getting stuck and having a hard time during certain story events. I even quit a few times as a kid because I kept getting my ass handed to me in battle, but now as an adult with more RPG experience and a bit of min-maxing obsession from MMOs, I approach the game differently. I make sure to synthesize every possible item each turn before advancing the story. This significantly changed the experience for me. In reality, Mana Khemia's difficulty is largely up to the player. If you're low on ability points, you can always step out and revisit off-campus locations to grind battles and gather more ability points. If you're missing ingredients for an important synthesis item, you can go out and collect what you need. The game system makes it enjoyable to synthesize and level up your characters as you watch Vayne and the others gradually grow stronger throughout the chapters. The game's difficulty is relatively easy if you take the time to fully prepare by synthesizing everything you can before progressing. During my recent playthrough, I didn't experience any game overs and found the game to be quite chill overall. However, Mana Khemia balances this well with its limited recipe availability each turn, preventing players from overpowering the story events too quickly. You'll still encounter some challenging battles, but none that are impossible if you put in the work to synthesize and optimize your Grow Book. In many ways, the Grow Book is a perfect fusion of Final Fantasy X's Sphere Grid and a more traditional JRPG experience system. But it's seamlessly tied into Mana Khemia's heavy focus on synthesis. This integration of item crafting with character progression makes the Grow Book one of my favorite leveling systems in any JRPG. It rewards exploration, crafting, and strategic planning, adding depth to both combat and synthesis in a way that feels uniquely satisfying. After completing the assignment, another week passes, and the Vice Principal's deadline looms closer. Flay, ever the troublemaker, hands Vayne and the group the recipe for the Nitro Cloth before running off mischievously, leaving them to handle the task. With the recipe in hand, Vayne, Jess, and Nikki head to the old schoolhouse to obtain the last missing ingredient, which can only be acquired by defeating a certain monster. This is a good point to discuss the time system when exploring areas off campus. As Vayne and his party explore, time moves forward and it's possible for it to turn to night. During nighttime, monsters become much more dangerous, moving faster on the map and catching you off guard. Nighttime monsters are stronger. It's highly advisable to avoid combat during the night whenever possible, as the increased difficulty can catch you off guard. Time shifts through 4 phases: dawn, day, dusk, and night. But from what I've experienced, these time changes primarily affect monster behavior. There are a few exceptions, such as ingredient gathering at the Millennium Tree, where certain items like rare fruit are only available during specific times of the day. However, this is a rather rare occurrence. After defeating the monster in the old schoolhouse, the party collects the final ingredient needed for the Necrocloth. Jess, ever eager to showcase her alchemy skills, takes the lead in synthesizing the item. However, she's quite clumsy, often relying on her intuition, like she's cooking a meal rather than carefully following the recipe. Despite her chaotic approach, the group manages to successfully synthesize the Necrocloth. With the Necrocloth complete, they return just in time to save Flay from being evicted from his Flay cave, much to the Vice Principal's annoyance. Before the first chapter concludes, the Vice Principal reflects on Vane and his mysterious connection to Theophortus, the once world-renowned and legendary alchemist. Theophortus, a renowned alchemist, was once engaged in a secretive and profound research. The chapter pulls back the curtains to show a glimpse of his life, revealing the bond he formed with a certain black kitten named Sulphur, who would come to play a significant role in Vane's life. As a new chapter begins, so does a new school term, which means more assignments for the group. Nikki interrupts Vane and Jess with news of a new transfer student, Roxas, a member of the prestigious Rosencrantz family. Naturally, Flay wastes no time in dragging the group along to try and recruit the newcomer. They find Roxas in his classroom, but discover that he has already been claimed by the goons from the previous chapter. Tony, a red-headed wannabe Italian mafioso, and his ally, Renee. As the week passes, Professor Zappel informs the class about the upcoming final exam at the end of the term, which sends Nikki into a bit of a panic. The first assignment of the term comes from Professor Isode, who hands the group a fishing pole and instructs them to fish at the heights for 2 hours. The grade depends on how many monsters they can avoid catching, with 0 monsters being the best grade. Fishing in Khemia is a simple but sometimes frustrating mini-game. At designated fishing spots, you cast your line and a bar appears with a smaller orange bar in the middle. To successfully catch a fish, you have to time it so that your moving cursor stops within the orange bar. The minigame is straightforward but can be annoying. As you fish more, you'll start recognizing patterns based on the size of the orange bar. Smaller bars typically indicate more difficult or rare fish. While the mechanics seem random, some fish can be quite elusive, and it becomes a bit of a challenge to reel in certain rare catches. One of the trickiest parts of fishing is the risk of accidentally catching a monster. This almost led me to a game over on more than one occasion. The monster, often pufferfish, can inflict instant death status and are surprisingly tough in the early game. If the orange bar is as large as the fishing bar itself, missing is almost impossible, and you're forced to deal with the consequences. With no monsters caught during the fishing assignment, the party easily earns an A and turns in their work without a hitch. The following week, the group heads to the cafeteria, where they overhear gossip that seems to target members of Flay's workshop. The source of these rumors appears to be Koropak, a large and somewhat mischievous student who has a penchant for spreading gossip. Koropak unlocks access to the gossip shop, where, for a price, he spreads different rumors that can benefit the party. You can speak to him at any time during the game to change the active rumor, though only one can be active at a time. Each rumor has a specific requirement to unlock, such as progressing through the story, completing side quests, or fulfilling quirky tasks like jumping 200 times. The effects of the rumors are unknown at first, and discovering them can be quite expensive, especially in the early game. Once spread, rumors provide beneficial effects, such as increasing monster item drop rates, boosting HP or SP, or increasing coal rewards from job requests. The flexibility to change rumors based on the party's needs adds a layer of strategy, though the cost of switching between them can quickly add up. Early on, I mostly focused on increasing the monster item drop, since that seemed to have been the most consistent and useful effect for gathering materials. Although the gossip shop is a unique addition to Khemia, its primary purpose seems to be reducing some of the grind that comes with synthesis and progression. If you're struggling or haven't been synthesizing as much as you should, you can use a rumor to give a slight stat boost or extra rewards to help ease the difficulty. However, since I was focused on min-maxing, I often found the monster drop rate increase to be a more reliable, static benefit and rarely switched to other rumors. One issue I had with the gossip shop was that the stat boosts, typically around +5 or +10, felt a bit underwhelming, especially when you can easily get stronger boosts from just one node in the growbook. This made the non-battle related rumors, such as those affecting co or item drops, the more appealing choices. I wish that the stat effects had been a bit higher to make them feel more impactful, particularly in the late game. The next assignment is relatively easy. The nurse and Professor Melanie gives the students a shovel and tasks them to water and harvest the crops at the heights, and leaves after warning them that she will be secretly watching. The farming mechanic is relatively simple in Khemia. You find the suitable places to harvest, which is marked by a little speech bubble and a crop icon, and you simply click the X button to gather. It appears that Melanie was indeed keeping watch as Vane and the others obtained another easy A, to which the party is now free to do whatever they like in the next 2 weeks of free time. Free time weeks are incredibly valuable, as they allow Vane to interact with his companions and advance their character-specific side stories, which give a further look into who they are and the stories behind them. Free time also opens up access to the School Affairs job request board, where you can then pick up additional side quests. These jobs typically involve fetching items or defeating tough enemies, and completing them often rewards you with rare recipes and much needed coal. Earning coal is essential, as each term the Academy's shop refreshed their stock with new items and recipes, which are critical for synthesis, and you'll find yourself at times broke, especially early on in the game when you're testing out new rumors or purchasing new recipes every new term. Fortunately, while free time is important, Khemia isn't time-gated. There's no need to rush through the game, as you're free to explore, farm materials, and synthesize at your own pace, even during assignment weeks. Overall, the game lets you enjoy its content at your leisure, giving you plenty of freedom to prepare for upcoming story events. It's finally time for Vane and his friends to take the final exam, and Professor Zappel explains that their task is to synthesize a specific item as quickly as possible. He hands them the recipe for dietary fiber, a relatively easy item to craft. However, Jess suggests that by using a different ingredient, a huffin, the dietary fiber would be of much higher quality. Flay, ever the perfectionist, insisted that they must get a huffin before using the synthesis cauldron, prompting the group to head towards the heights in search of one. When they arrive, they find Tony, Renee, and Roxas already at the location and approaching the huffin tree. Just as Vane and his party get close, Roxas blocks their path, forcing a battle. During the scuffle, Tony takes advantage of the distraction and sets the huffin tree on fire, which prevents Vane and his team from obtaining the high-quality huffin they need for the exam. Tony's underhanded tactics leave a bitter taste for everyone involved, including Renee and even Roxas, who seems unsettled by the act. After the incident, Nikki and Jess leave a dejected Vane behind. Vane, glowing with a mysterious blue aura, return to the academy, burdened by their failure. The next day, Nikki and Jess surprise Vane by taking him back to the huffin tree, which to their surprise is now restored and intact. Not only are they able to collect huffins, but a mana of tree appears and thanks them for their help in restoring the tree. In gratitude, the mana offers to sign a contract with Nikki, becoming her mana and marking a new bond between them. Mana are spiritual entities that exist in symbiosis with alchemists, embodying various natural elements such as fire, water, wind, and earth, as well as even more abstract concepts like light and darkness. Mana are typically bound to an alchemist, offering them magical power and assistance in performing alchemy. This relationship is vital to an alchemist's abilities. Examples include Jess's mana of wind, Nikki's mana of tree, and Flay's mana of gold. Being bound to a mana significantly strengthens an alchemist, as seen when Roxas laments how much more powerful one can become simply by having a mana. Some mana beings take on a guardian-like role, offering wisdom, guidance, or even ancient knowledge. Mana are often portrayed as wise, with some like Flay and Roxas's mana being a few hundred years old. These mana are even shown to be connected in some ways, suggesting that they have long-standing histories and affiliations with one another. The party successfully synthesized the dietary fiber using a high-quality huffin, securing a great result for their final exam. Afterwards, Roxas approaches Vane and offers a grudging apology for what happened at the Huffin Tree. However, despite the apology, Roxas bluntly tells Vane that he still hates him. His deep-seated resentment toward Vane, likely due to his natural talent and mysterious connection to Theophortus, remains unresolved, setting the stage for further tension between them. Chapter 3 starts with a brief reflection from Theophortus on using his alchemy skills to help others. With the final exam complete, Vane's freshman year at Al-Revis Academy ends, marking the start of summer vacation. Students are required to remain on campus until graduation, giving the group extra free time. Flay invites Vane, Jess, and Nikki to join his annual horror night where they explore campus for scary stories. Although the tales aren't particularly frightening, things take a serious turn when they find Roxas unconscious in the resource center and hear that a student has been kidnapped by a monster. Determined to help, the group ventures deeper into the resource center, discovering that Flay had actually been working with Pamela, a recurring ghost character from the Atelier series, as part of a prank to scare freshmen. However, they soon realize that Pamela wasn't behind the kidnapping, prompting Flay and Pamela to join the effort to stop the real threat. The group encounters the true culprit, a monster who had staged the whole incident out of jealousy to get Pamela's attention. After dealing with the situation, Flay introduces Pamela, who has lived at the academy for hundreds of years, as the newest member of their workshop. Summer break had brought new discoveries and deeper bonds for Vane and his companions, but the shadows of Theophortus' past grew more ominous. His encounters were not only with alchemical mysteries, but also for women who knew him quite well, hinting at a deeper personal connections and secrets that would soon surface, impacting Vane's life in unexpected ways. With summer break now over, classes resume at Al-Revis Academy. Professor Zappel reminds the student about the upcoming school festival, a major event that takes place at the end of the term. This year's festival features a dual tag team battle arena as the main event. Without hesitation, Flay forcefully signs Vane up as his partner, marking Flay's official entry into the party. Before Vane and the group can focus on their assignments for the term, Flay introduces them to a new mechanic, task sharing. Task sharing is a system that allows Vane to assign his workshop members to specific tasks, reducing the burden on the player. These tasks can include searching, where you can assign a character to go on a search, where they'll then gain ability points after completing it. Gathering, where you can send a party member to gather ingredients at an off-campus location. Or synthesis, where you can then assign a character to synthesize various items, including healing jars, weapons, armor, or accessories. In theory, searching sounds useful, but it's often redundant. If you need more ability points, you can simply leave campus and gather them while fighting monsters to gain additional ability points. Since Mana Khemia allows you to leave at any time, whether during story events, assignments, or free time, it's more efficient to earn ability points by actively exploring and battling. Gathering is similar in a way that it feels unnecessary. Although workshop members have specialties that make them more efficient at specific locations, it's still easier to gather the materials yourself. I rarely use searching or gathering during my playthrough because synthesis was a much more effective option overall. It's no surprise that the synthesis task is the most valuable option in task sharing. Assigning a party member to replicate items is incredibly useful. This feature saved me from needing to gather extra ingredients and allowed me to stock up on commonly used items without having to manually craft them over and over again. Each workshop member specializes in different items, and it's easy to see their efficiency based on a difficulty rating that ranges from super easy to super hard. The time frame to complete synthesis tasks varies as well, from as little as half a week to as much as 3 weeks, depending on the item's difficulty and the character's skill. Overall, task sharing is a fantastic feature that helps to cut down on unnecessary grinding. It streamlines the process of gathering ingredients and crafting items, especially when you need to produce multiples of a high quality accessory for different party members. The synthesis task in particular is a real time saver, and it helps reduce the repetitive nature of item crafting, making it one of the most efficient tools in the game. During this assignment, Vayne and his party learned to utilize another unique feature of Mana Khemia's battle system, the burst gauge system. This mechanic is tied to how you analyze and exploit enemy weaknesses, which I mentioned earlier. Each hit on an enemy fills the burst gauge, and hitting an enemy's weaknesses not only flashes those satisfying red damage numbers, but it also accelerates the charge of the burst gauge. Once the burst gauge is full, the party enters burst mode, where the background shifts and all damage is amplified. In burst mode, you're racing against the clock to deal as much damage as possible before the gauge depletes, with each action reducing the remaining time. If you meet the special conditions that pop up during burst mode, you can charge the finishing burst gauge. Once full, you can unleash a finishing burst, a powerful attack that not only ends burst mode, but delivers massive damage. This system rewards players for strategically exploiting weaknesses, making battles more engaging and exciting. With Flay and Pamela now available to fight alongside Vayne, he can now customize the party's battle formation. The formation consists of two parts: the Vanguard, the 3 characters who start the battle, and the Support, who remain on standby until called into action. During battle, you can tag out allies after they attack to follow up with a new attack, or switch them in when an ally is being attacked to defend. However, this can only be done when their support cards are charged and ready for deployment, indicated when their cards are highlighted. You can switch between support cards using R1 or L1, and the support cards charge after every action in battle. The supporting members regenerate SP while the battle rages on, which creates a nice balance. The system encourages players to dump their SP for stronger attacks rather than trying to conserve it, which was a limiting factor in the early game. This dynamic adds an exciting layer of resource management, allowing players to swap characters in and out as needed, maintaining pressure on enemies and keeping the action fluid. What begins as a simple turn-based system transforms into a dynamic, strategic, and fast-paced battle experience that rarely feels repetitive. The school festival is finally underway, and before the highly anticipated tournament begins, Vayne and his companions take some time to enjoy the festivities around campus. When the tournament kicks off, Vayne and Flay easily defeat their first opponents. However, things take a twist when they discover that Renee has captured Jess in an underhanded attempt to ensure Tony and Roxas win the tournament by other means. To counter this, Flay decides to handle the remaining battles on his own until the finals, instructing Vayne, Nikki, and Pamela to rescue Jess. The group tracks down Renee and an unconscious Jess at the Mana Ruins. After defeating Renee, they successfully rescue Jess and rush back to the tournament just in time for Vayne to join Flay for the finals against Tony and Roxas. Vayne and Flay easily defeat Tony and Roxas, claiming victory in the tournament. As a result of a previous bet between Flay and Tony, Roxas, the intelligent, cold, glasses-wearing alchemist, is now obligated to join Flay's workshop, much to his displeasure. Crowned the Dukes of Destruction, Vayne and Flay bask in their victory, and the chapter ends with Roxas begrudgingly joining the workshop. Though Roxas becomes a member, he makes it clear that he has no intention of becoming friends with any of them, maintaining his cold and distant demeanor. With the excitement of the school festival behind them, Vayne and his friends resume their studies. However, the story of Theophritus takes a somber turn, as his alchemical journey led him to a village suffering from a deadly epidemic. His desire to help and the methods he employed would have consequences that rippled through Vayne's present, as the darker aspects of alchemy finally began to reveal themselves. Back at Al-Revis Academy, it's the start of a new year, and Vayne is now a sophomore. To the surprise of the workshop, Flay introduces their newest recruit, Anna, a young freshman with blue hair and a katana. Despite her youth, Anna is strong-willed and immediately criticizes the workshop's untidiness. She doesn't hesitate to confront Flay, even chasing him out of the workshop after a heated argument, showcasing her fiery personality. While exploring the campus, Vayne sees Roxas adopting an orphan kitten, revealing the gentle and compassionate nature hidden beneath his cold exterior. Throughout the game, exploring the academy in various locations can trigger event scenes, offering small glimpses into the characters' school lives. These events are a nice break from the main story and serve to deepen your understanding of the characters. Some scenes like Roxas's adoption of the kitten reveal endearing traits, while others add to the world building, making the academy feel much more alive. Whether it's Anna yapping about the cleanliness of the workshop, Jess's explosive alchemy synthesis, or Flay's constant pursuit of justice, these moments also help to keep the game engaging, especially since the main story can be a bit slow if the player wants to further explore or grind until they're ready. As part of the next assignment, Vayne is tasked with crafting a high-quality healing item. This is a great opportunity to explain a key aspect of the synthesis mechanic in Mana Khemia, specifically how recipes work and how new items can be discovered beyond just following a recipe. While recipes are essential for unlocking new items, they serve as a foundational guide rather than a rigid formula. Each recipe lists the required foundational ingredients, but Vayne has the flexibility to substitute these ingredients with similar items of the same type. This opens up the potential for discovery, as substituting ingredients can lead to the creation of new items or variations of already existing ones. Often, after synthesizing an item, a member of the workshop will suggest or teach Vayne how to create a related item influenced by the original. This is indicated by a character's head icon appearing next to an item in the synthesis menu, showing that crafting the item will unlock another recipe. This system adds a layer of engagement to synthesis, encouraging experimentation and exploration within the crafting system. For instance, substituting the first material in a recipe can unlock entirely new items. However, sometimes these newly unlocked items are not immediately craftable and remain locked until later in the game. One of the more charming aspects of the system is how it sometimes reflects the personalities of the characters. For example, Flay, who is all about justice, isn't satisfied with black steel and insists on using red steel, well, because naturally, red is the color of justice. This flexible synthesis system keeps players engaged by constantly offering new ways to experiment, while also revealing more about the characters through their preferences and crafting suggestions. Vayne is then able to synthesize an X-Heal with the help of Roxas and is able to earn an easy A. It is later revealed in the chapter that Vayne is a son of the famous and renowned alchemist Theophortus Aurelius. This news surprises the group as much as it does Vayne, who knows very little about his father due to his fragmented memories of the past. Curious and seeking answers, the group then decide to ask the faculty members for more information about Theophortus. Their search leads them to Professor Isolde, who shares an intriguing story about Theophortus. She reveals that Theophortus once defeated a great beast, a feat that had granted him access to a mysterious location where he witnessed a scene no one else had ever seen. This piques Flay's curiosity, and, in his usual fashion, he insists that the party attempt to replicate Theophortus' journey. As the group leaves to begin their adventure, it's subtly hinted that Isolde deliberately revealed this information to test Vayne, leaving a sense of mystery about her true intentions. The party ventures into Heaven's Road, a forbidden area beyond the Bone Grove in Dragon's Grave. It is here where they encounter the very same great beast that Theophortus once defeated, a majestic blue dragon. The dragon, remembering its past defeat at the hands of Theophortus, is now determined to best his son, Vayne, in battle. A fierce battle ensues, but the party finds themselves unable to harm the dragon. Just when things seem bleak, Vayne begins to glow blue once again, as he did during the incident with the Huffin Tree. The dragon, suddenly weakened by this mysterious power, becomes vulnerable, and the party seizes the opportunity to fight back. During the battle, Vayne unlocks a powerful new co-op battle mechanic, Variable Strike. This mechanic is unique to Vayne and occurs when he is the final character in a sequence of 3 consecutive support actions. When triggered, Variable Strike launches a devastating chain combo where Vayne and the other 2 members of the Vanguard team up to deliver a powerful, synchronized attack. While Variable Strike is an incredibly strong move, it's most effective in Burst mode, as support cards charge much faster during this phase. Outside of Burst mode, using Variable Strike can be challenging since support cards do need time to recharge. Early in the game, you'll likely save your support cards for defensive support actions, or swapping characters for SP regeneration. But as the game progresses and the support card charge rate improves through the Grow Book, Variable Strike becomes more viable in regular battles, especially during mini-boss and boss fights where enemies will have a much larger health pool. More damage always equals more fun, so this mechanic is a welcome addition. With the dragon now defeated, Vayne and his companions are granted passage to the beautiful scenery that only Theophratus had once witnessed. This moment feels like a major victory, not just for the battle itself, but for Vayne's personal growth and his deepening connection to his father's legacy. Standing in the same place his father once stood, Vayne begins to feel the weight of his heritage and the mystery surrounding his past. As the chapter comes to a close, Vayne reflects on his connection with his father, wondering about the kind of man his father truly was. As another term concluded, the weight of Theophratus' past grew heavier. The alchemist's attempts to cure a child's mysterious illness showcase his brilliance and hubris, and the failures that haunted him. The consequences of these efforts would echo into the present. Back at Al-Revis Academy, the previous term has ended, and it's now summer break, which also means summer homework. Professor Zappel assigns each workshop the task of conducting research. However, Vayne and his companions struggle to settle on a topic. While they debate ideas, Flay surprisingly suggests something useful, but promptly runs away from the responsibility of cleaning the workshop. As summer break nears its end, the group finally chooses their research topic after dismissing several less than ideal suggestions. Jess suggests creating a medicine that turns people green. Roxas proposes writing essays. Nikki wants to build a robot out of cardboard. And Pamela suggests putting on a play. Ultimately, they settle on Flay's idea, excavating deep within the Mana ruins to search for the remains of ancient alchemy. Unbeknownst to them, Tony has been eavesdropping on their conversation. With their topic chosen, Vayne and his companions head to the Mana ruins. Deep within the ruins, the group discovers a strange metallic egg. Before they can examine it using Flay's self-named Flay pewter, Tony and Renee arrive to challenge them for the artifact. This battle is one of the toughest encounters in the game so far. Tony does heavy AoE damage, while Renee can unleash a devastating attack after charging up. On top of that, Renee summons her Mana, who casts magic that can be quite a nuisance. The combination of their strong attacks makes this a truly challenging fight. After a hard-fought victory, the party returns to their workshop, eager to investigate the metallic egg. Flay, being his usual self, kicks the egg around in an attempt to figure it out. The egg begins to shake and speaks of 2,000 space years. To everyone's shock, a soft-bodied creature emerges from the levitating egg, bewildered by its surroundings. Angered, he tries to destroy Vayne and the others, but notices that his weapons have been broken. So he uses his translator pack to communicate with them. Using its translator pack, the creature introduces itself in broken words as Muppy, a self-proclaimed friend of theirs and a foreign student. Muppy claims to be 17 years old, and after some chaos, ends up joining the workshop, mostly thanks to Flay's antics, threatening and tricking the principal. Muppy is admitted into the academy as an official student. After a summer filled with strange occurrences and deeper mysteries, the start of the new term did little to ease the questions surrounding Vayne's true nature. Meanwhile, Theophratus' past encounters revealed a woman who had supported his radical experiments. These experiments, shrouded in secrecy, hinted that Vayne's origins were far from ordinary, setting the stage for revelations that would change everything. With the new term underway, Al-Revis Academy prepares for another school festival. This year's main event is the cross-campus Ultra Alchemy Trivia, a competition where participants answer alchemy-related questions in pairs. As the festival approaches, Vane focuses on completing his assignments to earn the necessary credits. However, his progress is once again interrupted by the ever-troublesome duo, Tony and Renee, stirring up mischief as they often do. It is here where I like to explain how fun the battle system truly is. This brings us to the time card system. Every action, whether it's an attack, skill, or ability, appears on a timeline, showing you who will act next. But it's more than just a turn order display. Certain skills like Roxas's Judgment or Chrono Drive place timed cards on the timeline, which trigger additional effects when they come up again. Roxas, in particular, excels at manipulating the system. His skill Purify can erase enemy timed cards, delaying their attack, while Retraction speeds up your own allies, making him a vital tactical asset. Other characters also bring their own flair to the time card system. Anna, for instance, can hide in a time rift, appearing later at a point of her choosing. This kind of manipulation adds another layer of strategy, where timing becomes just as important as choosing the right attack. Even when a character isn't actively fighting, they can still contribute by leaving time cards on the battlefield, making every turn matter. As their growbook progresses, each character also gains support attack and defense support abilities, which are triggered when they're swapped in. Vane can knock back enemies on the timeline with his attack support, while Flay can reduce their defense. Roxas can steal an enemy's abilities, and Muppy steals a show with his defensive support. When Muppy swaps in, he stores your other two allies in his pot, shielding them from AoE attacks and effectively turning an AoE attack into a single target hit. And since Muppy is incredibly tanky, he often absorbs hits that would otherwise devastate your team. This dynamic combat system really shines as you start mastering the art of SP regeneration and swapping. In regular battles, it allows you to cycle through high damage, SP heavy skills, then swap the characters to recover SP and continue the onslaught. In boss fights, it's all about timing, saving Muppy to defend against heavy AoE attacks or using Pamela to completely nullify single target physical hits. Dropping offensive time cards with Roxas or Flay and then swapping them out for fresh damage dealers adds a layer of strategy that keeps each fight feeling fresh, engaging, and fast paced. Completely different from what you would think from a typical JRPG turn-based combat system. Overall, Mana Khemia's combat system isn't just about turn-based mechanics. It's a dance of timing, resource management, and strategic swapping that makes each encounter feel dynamic and rewarding. Whether you're exploiting weaknesses for a powerful burst mode, or carefully manipulating time cards to gain the upper hand, the system offers depth that keeps battles exciting throughout the game. After defeating the troublesome duo, Tony and Renee, Vane earns an easy A for his efforts. With the school festival approaching, Vane begins searching for a partner to join him in the cross-campus Ultra Alchemy Trivia. After considering his options, he finds Roxas in the student store and chooses him as his partner. Roxas seems like the perfect fit, intelligent, from a prestigious alchemy family, willing to write research papers, and of course, wearing glasses, which Vane assumes is a sign of academic prowess. The trivia competitions kicks off with the first question: catch the giant fish. The team that catches the largest fish wins. Vane and Roxas then head to the heights and manage to catch a tiger blowfish, which secures their victory for the first question. The second question is a bit more cryptic. Make something huge. While the wording is strange, Roxas figures out the true meaning behind the question. Instead of trying to synthesize something physically massive, they craft a giant's ring. The judge is impressed with their clever interpretation of the riddle, awarding them another win for the second question. The third and final question, worth double points, is a simple fetch request for a black muscat. Vane and Roxas easily retrieve the black muscat, but are ambushed by other students trying to sabotage their success. Meanwhile, Tony attempts to sabotage the contest further by attacking Pierre, the elderly judge. Pierre turns out to be incredibly strong and promptly defeats Tony. Vane and Roxas secure the black muscat and win the third question, becoming the overall victors of the cross-campus Ultra Alchemy Trivia. As the chapter draws to a close, Vane reflects on the experience, realizing that this was the last time he truly enjoyed his time at school, leaving the moment bittersweet. Theophritus' reflections on the value of life and the ethical limits of alchemy pointed to a final task, one that would ultimately lead him to make a desperate choice. With sophomore year almost over and senior year on the horizon, the entire main cast has been introduced. As we prepare to move forward, it feels like the perfect time to give a brief overview of each character and what they bring to the game. Vayne, the brooding protagonist. Vayne is our mysterious, introverted protagonist, complete with his mana, sulfur. His abilities reflect this. He's primarily a physical damage dealer with some magical versatility. His Analyze skill is a great utility tool that reveals enemy weaknesses and strengths, helping the party to strategize. Vayne excels in physical combat, dishing out powerful AoE attacks with his pillar skills, and later in the game unlocking a single target nuke, Chaos Devotion. His Jade Shift ability lets him take extra turns by adding an additional time card to the timeline, giving him more flexibility in battle. All in all, he's a well-rounded character with decent magical stats to back up his physical prowess. Jess, the clumsy, explosive alchemist. Jess is the clumsy pink-haired alchemist with an eagerness to concoct new and innovative medicines and explosives, often to the detriment of those around her. Immature and playful, especially when paired with Nikki, she tends to get into trouble, forcing Vayne to keep a close watch on her, particularly when she starts experimenting. In battle, Jess begins as a healer, but she's more of a magical damage dealer. She uses her dimensional bag to create explosives that deal AoE damage, but her reliance on materials for her list abilities become tedious over time. Eventually, Pamela surpasses Jess, offering more utility and damage, which leaves Jess struggling to keep up as the game progresses. Jess often serves as a foil to our main protagonist, Vayne, representing the innocent and adventurous side of alchemy. She eagerly chases after her own explosive and dangerous experiments without a second thought, embodying a carefree curiosity. However, as Vayne interacts with Jess more, particularly through her side quests during free time, he learns that there's much more to her than her lighthearted demeanor suggests. Jess is revealed to be a sickly girl who is living on borrowed time. In her past, she contracted a disease that would have been fatal, but a traveling alchemist saved her life. However, the cure came at a cost. It significantly shortened her lifespan. Despite her cheerful exterior, Jess is quietly racing against the clock, hoping to find a way to extend her life through her wild experiments. Her seemingly reckless approach to alchemy stems from a very real and personal need to prolong her life. Jess's outlook on death is surprisingly bleak, but she has become so used to the idea of it that she keeps her condition a secret. She hides her shortened lifespan from the others until Vayne accidentally discovers the truth when she faints. The two agree to keep it a secret until Jess's health begins to deteriorate further. When Vayne eventually reveals the truth to the rest of the group, they rally around her and promise to find her a cure, adding an emotional depth to Jess's character arc as her friends vow to help her continue living. Nikki, the klutzy beastman. Nikki is a fun-loving, klutzy beastman who's often treated like a kitten. Well, at least by Sulfur. As a speedy physical attacker, Nikki stands out with her unique Heartbreaker skill, allowing her to capture beasts in battle. Outside of combat, Nikki has a strong love for food, making her quite good in the kitchen, and even boasts a fan club on campus. However, much like Jess, Nikki's abilities suffer from the tedious upkeep of items required for her skills, and once Anna joins the party, Nikki's usefulness starts to diminish. Anna not only matches Nikki's speed, but also brings magical damage to the team, making Nikki less essential as the game progresses, and leaving her sidelined for the rest of my playthrough. Despite her playful nature, Nikki's character brings an interesting perspective as a beastman, which sets her apart from the others, like when she tries, and fails, to catch a mouse or scratches her nails on the wooden poles in the workshop, which lead her into trouble with Anna. While Nikki's antics are endearing, she doesn't do much to dispel the stereotype of the dumb blonde, as she's arguably the least bright of the group. As Vayne spends more time with Nikki, we learn that her goal is to find several male students at the academy to become her husbands, as she dreams of having many babies. This amusing ambition sometimes causes friction between her and the other female students on campus. Her growing popularity even leads to the creation of a Nikki fan club, which becomes a problem for Vayne, Flay, and Roxas, as they are often seen around her and consequently targeted by her fanboys. To resolve the chaos caused by her admirers, Nikki and Vane pretend to be boyfriend and girlfriend, hoping to put an end to the fanboy's hopes of being with her. Through this charade, Nikki starts to genuinely develop feelings for Vane, who repeatedly protects her throughout the process. While Nikki's romantic arc is playful and entertaining, I personally lean towards Jess as the more fitting romantic option for Vane, due to a significant revelation later in the story that ties the two characters together on a deeper level. Flay, the red-headed defender of justice. Flay is the red-headed musclehead, self-proclaimed defender of justice, and a notorious troublemaker at Al-Revis Academy. Known for creating chaos and disappearing just as quickly, Flay is constantly on the vice principal's radar for his antics. Despite his troublemaking ways, Flay is an unstoppable powerhouse in battle, making him a valuable ally to Vane and the team. In combat, Flay excels at dealing massive single-target damage. His Ride-in Charge ability turns his physical attacks into lightning-based magic damage, allowing him to deal both physical and magical damage. His Buster Star skill spawns timed cards that deliver consistent, heavy damage, especially devastating to enemies that are weak to lightning. Though his magic stat isn't the best for casting AoE spells, his Screwdriver ability offers a strong AoE option when needed. While he's a bit slow and lacks large-scale AoE attacks early in the game, Flay's raw power makes him indispensable during boss fights. Despite his strength in combat, Flay isn't the brightest student at the academy and ultimately becomes a super senior after failing to graduate, granting him an extra year to continue his reign as the leader of his workshop. Flay often shirks his responsibilities, leaving the heavy lifting to his underlings, and serves as the group's comedic relief with his blunt takes on situations and his over-the-top schemes to prove a point. As much trouble as Flay causes, he has a genuine desire to fight against injustice. He forcefully takes Vane under his wing, teaching him the ways of cringeworthy justice, and together they become the Academy's well-known defenders of justice. Through his side quests, Flay and Vane dismantle various villains within the Academy, eventually running out of enemies to fight. With no more wrongdoers to demolish, they are left with mundane tasks like cleaning workshops, doing homework for others, and even lending money to those in need, much to Flay's frustration. Flay's larger-than-life personality and unwavering sense of justice makes him a memorable and beloved character. He even returns in the sequel, Khemia 2, but this time as a professor rather than a student. Pamela, the beautiful and alluring ghost. Pamela is an aloof, centuries-old ghost who serves as the caretaker of the Academy Library, a job she's comically bad at due to her laziness and irresponsibility. Friendly with monsters and infamous for scaring freshmen, Pamela often comes off as underwhelming at first. However, as she unlocks more of her ghostly abilities, she becomes a crucial member of the team. One of Pamela's defining traits is her immunity to physical attacks, making her perfect for defensive swaps during tough battles. Instead of using SP, Pamela relies on her HP for her attacks, and she later gains the ability to heal the party based on the damage that she deals. This makes her an effective healer and a strong AoE magic damage dealer as the game progresses. Pamela, who has been haunting the academy for hundreds of years, easily grows bored and frequently stirs up trouble for amusement. Her boredom leads her to pull pranks and scare students across the campus, much to the annoyance of others. Despite being centuries old, she isn't exactly the brightest, much like Jess and Nikki. For instance, she often concocts questionable medicines that she hands out to students who, entranced by her alluring beauty and charming smile, find it impossible to refuse. Even Roxas falls victim to her charms, leaving Vane and the rest of the workshop members to clean up her messes. Pamela's mischievous, carefree nature makes her a unique and memorable presence in the academy. She walks the line between charming and chaotic, making her a constant source of humor and unpredictability. As a recurring character in the Atelier series, Pamela first appeared in Atelier Judy and has made appearances in 12 Atelier games to date, including the most recent Atelier Thyza. Roxas, the time-bending alchemist. Roxas Rosencrantz hails from a once prestigious family of alchemists that has failed to produce any notable figures for over a century. This legacy burdens Roxas with deep insecurities, particularly when he compares himself to Vane, whom he initially resents for his natural talent. Roxas spends most of the game reading his books and silently wishing he could punch Vane in the face. Cold, distant, and competitive at first, Roxas gradually warms up to the workshop members as the story progresses. His journey is one of growth and self-acceptance, transforming him from a bitter rival into a valued friend and teammate. In battle, Roxas excels in magical damage and time manipulation. What sets Roxas apart is his power to directly affect the time card line. Roxas' serious demeanor reflects his commitment to his studies in alchemy, highlighting his intelligence and work ethic. This academic rigor contrasts sharply with the carefree or chaotic members of the workshop, like Flay and Pamela. Roxas is driven by his desire to master his craft and live up to the Rosencrantz family name. It is this very drive that amplifies his insecurities, especially when he compares himself to Vayne and the other workshop members. Roxas' biggest struggle stems from the fact that he is manaless, while the others, Vayne with Sulfur, Jess with the mana of Wind, Nikki with the mana of Tree, and Flay with the mana of Gold, all have their own mana. Roxas feels inadequate without one. He desperately tries to forge a contract with the mana of Light, believing that this connection will allow him to reach his full potential. This deep-rooted insecurity is a source of his antagonism toward Vayne, as he views Vayne's natural abilities as unfairly effortless compared to his own struggles. The mana of Light eventually offers Roxas a contract, but with one condition, that Roxas must become friends with Vayne. Roxas reluctantly agrees out of desperation to finally secure a mana. As the two spend more time together, Roxas and Vayne's relationship deepens, evolving from forced camaraderie to a genuine friendship. Their bond grows strong enough that they eventually unlock the ability to perform co-op synthesis, something that they couldn't do before. Roxas' side quests provide further insights into his character. One particularly amusing quest involves Flay and the Mana of Light teasing Roxas by fabricating a potential romance between him and Pamela. In the end, this playful ruse leaves Roxas embarrassed when Pamela rejects him in front of other students, but it also showcases Roxas' more vulnerable side. Despite his cold exterior, Roxas has a compassionate, softer side that is slowly revealed as Vayne interacts with him. This is first hinted at when Vayne finds Roxas adopting a stray kitten, a gentle act that contrasts with his prickly persona. It shows that while Roxas may struggle with jealousy and social interactions, he deeply cares about others in his own quiet way. Roxas' character arc is one of growth and redemption. Initially fueled by bitterness and a desire to surpass Vayne, he gradually learns that his self-worth does not depend on outshining others or living up to his family's legacy. Through his interactions with Vayne and the rest of the workshop, Roxas begins to accept himself and realize that Vayne's success does not diminish his own abilities. By the end of the game, Roxas evolves from a rival into a trusted and respected member of the team, forging meaningful relationships with his companions. Roxas' journey is ultimately one of self-discovery, as he balances his desire for recognition with the acceptance of his own talents. He learns that he can forge his own path as an alchemist, independent of his family's legacy or his initial resentment of Vayne. Anna Lemoti, the serious swordswoman with a childlike heart. Anna is a freshman at Al-Revis Academy. Despite being younger than most of her peers, she's a highly skilled swordswoman. Anna is disciplined and dedicated to her training, wielding her katana with precision. She is the heir to her family's dojo and attends the academy to determine whether she should continue the path of alchemy or return to her martial arts roots. Despite her serious demeanor, Anna often displays a strong sense of duty and responsibility, which sometimes puts her at odds with the more relaxed and carefree members of the workshop. Despite her intense focus and strict attitude, Anna frequently shows her childlike innocence and has a tendency to get lost in her own world. Her overly serious nature sometimes leads to misunderstandings that cause unintended chaos for the workshop. One notable instance occurs when Anna misinterprets Pamela's yawning as a sign of existential sadness, which prompts Anna to attempt an exorcism on Pamela. Despite her good intentions, this misunderstanding spirals into chaos as Anna defeats the other workshop members who try to stop her, causing mayhem in her effort to help Pamela. Anna also sees potential in Vayne and takes him on as her disciple. Impressed by his raw combat talent despite his lack of formal training, Vayne, while always tired and unmotivated, begins training with Anna and is often surprised by her relentless dedication to improving her skills. Her intense training regimen stands in stark contrast to Vane's more laid-back attitude, but she continues to push him, believing that his natural talent needs to be honed with discipline. Her role as both a student and mentor in the group adds an interesting dynamic. She is often serious about her role as Vane's teacher, but her childlike tendencies lead to humorous and endearing moments, as she frequently misunderstands the situations around her. Although Anna excels in combat, her academic performance is a different story. Anna struggles with her studies, and at one point in the game, the vice principal warns the workshop that she may flunk out the academy. In battle, Anna is a fast and agile physical attacker with proficiency in both physical combat and magic. Her speed gives her an edge, allowing her to act quickly and support the team with powerful attacks. Anna's ability to push slower allies to act sooner makes her invaluable in battle, especially when paired with her offensive swapping skill, which lets her take her turn immediately when substituted into battle. She excels in both physical and magical damage, giving her versatility and making her a reliable asset to the party. While Anna starts off as a disciplined and serious character, her childlike curiosity and misunderstanding of social cues lead to numerous moments of comic relief. Her tendency to become absorbed in her own world, along with her strict sense of duty, creates memorable interactions with the rest of the workshop. Her journey at Al-Revis Academy is one of learning balance between her martial arts discipline and alchemy, and between her seriousness and innocence. Muppy, the Royal Alien. Muppy is an alien and former research project of Flay's workshop. As royalty from his home planet, Muppy has grand ambitions to take over the world. Muppy's plan for world domination starts with step 1, getting an education. His odd but charming personality makes him both a comedic and endearing character. Muppy is a unique character in that, well, he's an alien. In battle, Muppy excels as the group's tank. While he deals fire-based magical damage, his true strength lies in his defense. With his high defense and resistance stats, Muppy becomes nearly unkillable when equipped with items like the Afro-Tick wig or flying fish boots. His standout ability is defensive support, where Muppy absorbs all his allies into his pot, turning powerful AoE enemy attacks into single target hits. This makes Muppy indispensable during tough battles, as he dramatically reduces incoming damage and ensures the party's survival. Through his character side quests, we learn that Muppy is eager to use his alchemy to repair his spaceship and take over the academy as a first step in his plan for world domination. Like Flay, Muppy often serves as comic relief, with his over-the-top scenarios providing plenty of laughs. One such moment is when he reproduces over 100 copies of himself, causing chaos around the academy and forcing Vane and the others to clean up after him. In another instance, Muppy takes the principal and Jess hostage, threatening them when faced with the possibility of expulsion. This scene also reveals one of Muppy's weaknesses, salt, which is as dangerous to him as it is to a snail. Muppy's facial expressions, especially his exaggerated evil face, are often hilarious, as he feigns innocence despite causing trouble for his friends. Much like Flay, Muppy uses his royal status as an excuse to avoid responsibilities, believing that his workshop members should do his work for him. Character-wise, I'm quite content with the main cast, as there's a wonderful mix of klutziness, perhaps a bit too much, seriousness, edginess, and comic relief. The characters blend together to create a vibrant and dynamic group that perfectly captures the relaxed yet engaging atmosphere of the academy. Despite the rising tensions in the story, the cast brings out the best elements of a chill, laid-back setting, making the experience all the more enjoyable. After completing their assignments, Sulfur suddenly faints, apologizing to Vane and telling him that he won't make it. Alarmed, the party rushes Sulfur to Professor Zappel, who instructs them to retrieve a moonflower that blooms deep within the old schoolhouse to save him. Worried for his friend, Vane leaves Sulfur in Zappel's care as the party hurries to the old schoolhouse. While the group ventures through the old schoolhouse, back at the academy, Professor Zappel tries his best to care for Sulfur, but lacks the expertise to fully treat him. At that moment, Professor Isolde arrives and offers her assistance. Professor Zappel gratefully accepts her help. Professor Isolde also is revealed to have been behind Tony and Renee's previous disruptions of Vane and his companions. However, this time, she instructs Tony and Renee to assist the group, showing a shift in her intentions. With the help of Tony and Renee, Vayne and the others successfully retrieve the much-needed moonflower and hurry back to the academy, where they find a now-recovered Sulfur alongside Professor Isolde. Isolde reveals that she also cares about Sulfur, but warns that Sulfur is living on borrowed time. With each passing term, the mysteries of Vayne's past becomes more intertwined with his present, and Sulfur's worsening conditions was a stark reminder of the uncertainties that lay ahead. Back at the academy, the graduation ceremony for the seniors take place. With the graduates being seen off, Vayne and Jess, now seniors themselves, reminisce about Flay's graduation and his absence. Their nostalgia is quickly interrupted when Professor Zappel introduces a new student. To everyone's surprise, it's Flay. After skipping all of his tests, Flay has flunked out and returned as a super senior, ready to look after the others for another year, much to the dismay of several workshop members. As the new term begins, the Academy's usual upbeat soundtrack shifts into a more somber and melancholic melody, reflecting the darker mood that now pervades the story, especially after witnessing Sulfur's failing health in the previous chapter. Khemia is known for its incredible soundtracks, which are crucial to the emotional impact of the story. One particular track that players will hear frequently is the Welcome to the Magic Workshop, the upbeat and adventurous theme that plays in the workshop. This catchy tune embodies the sense of excitement and discovery that comes with synthesizing items. It's a nostalgic piece for me personally, as I often find myself humming it even in my sleep. Each character has their own unique soundtrack that complements their personality. For instance, Flay's Ally of Justice is a bold and rather cheesy piece that reflects the havoc he causes around campus while fighting for justice. While Roxas' theme, absorbed by the glasses, is more serious and contemplative as he faces his own issues in life, and is the polar opposite to the majority of the early storyline. Jess's theme, Whistling Girl, captures her innocent and cute persona, but also hints at her mischievous and troublemaking tendencies. Muppy's theme, Rectangular Wave of Love, perfectly encapsulates his strange and alien nature with its quirky, otherworldly sound. Every time that I hear it, I know that something weird but entertaining is about to happen. One of my personal favorites is Wind Banquet from the Wind Corridor dungeon. There's nothing quite like exploring the dungeon, gathering ingredients, and jumping around to the rhythm of the beautiful tune. The battle themes in Khemia are also fantastic. Tracks like Splendid Force really pump you up for combat. While Nefertiti sends chills down my spine every time I hear it. The music alone makes this game worth playing. Mana Khemia's music masterfully represents the theme of light and darkness. While there's a sense of carefree adventure in the early parts of the game, the switch up in music foreshadows things won't always go as Vayne hopes. As the story grows darker, so too does the Academy's theme and the workshop's once cheerful melody, reflecting the deeper and more serious tone of the narrative as the game progresses. I'm someone who truly appreciates audio clarity in games, whether it's action, shooter, or RPG genres. Mana Khemia does this surprisingly well. The sound of Vayne's jump as he hops around is so crisp, and the UI sounds when navigating the menu are satisfying. In battle, each character has their own set of voice lines, which adds so much life to the experience, whether it's unique lines tied to their abilities, attacking, defending, or just being idle. These moments make the battles feel much more alive and dynamic. It really enhances the already amazing fast-paced turn-based combat. The audio design in Mana Khemia makes every moment, every hit, every jump, and every click a pleasure to the ears. Vayne, who is voiced in English by Liam O'Brien, known for his iconic roles such as Gaara in Naruto or Akihiko Sanada in Persona 3, and Yasuo from League of Legends. Liam brings a reserved yet impactful tone to Vayne's character, capturing both his quiet intensity and his inner struggles.
This is so messed up. Why did they have to go this far? I don't think all alchemists are like that. So, is this tree dead?
Jess is voiced by Kate Higgins. Kate voices Sakura Haruno from Naruto, Natsume from .hack GU, and even Gatomon in Digimon. Kate brings an energetic and bubbly charm to Jess, balancing her lighthearted innocence with her underlying emotional depth.
You finally noticed. Jeez, it's not nice to ignore people.
Sorry.
Who were you talking to?
Huh? Oh, Sulfur.
Oh, how cute! Is he your mana? He can't speak? How unusual.
Nikki is voiced by Stephanie Sheh. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but she is the voice of Hinata Hyuga in Naruto, Orihime in Bleach, Emma in Sekiro, and Estelle Bright in Trails in the Sky. Stephanie gives Nikki a lively, klutzy energy, blending her beastman nature with her quirky, lovable personality.
You guys are so diligent, and the new term has only just started. I think he's at it again. We're not that bad. We just take breaks every now and then.
Flay is voiced by Richard Epcar, known for voicing Raiden in Mortal Kombat and Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 2. Richard's deep, commanding voice perfectly complements Flay's bold, justice-driven antics and larger-than-life persona.
I have no idea. I've never even taken an exam. It's not that big a deal, really. You'll just get called out by the teacher. Everyone here? I've caught a live one this year. I didn't force her. Deep down in her heart, she wanted to come here.
Roxas is voiced by Patrick Seitz, best known for his roles as Dio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Kenpachi in Bleach, and Jiden in Dragon Ball Super. Patrick's rich and powerful voice lends itself well to Roxas's cold, serious, and occasionally antagonistic demeanor.
Stop pestering me. It's none of your business. I apologize for yesterday. I'm sorry, but I have to make this clear. I hate you.
The voice acting in Mana Khemia is done well, with each voice mostly suiting the character. This game features a significant amount of voice dialogue, with most story events being fully voiced. In addition, the voice work during character events, battle interactions, and skirmishes really enhances the overall charm and liveliness of the game, making it feel more immersive and dynamic. Vayne completes his remaining assignments. During a career counseling session, he confesses to Professor Zappel that he's unsure about his future, worrying the professor. Shortly after, Vayne hears a mysterious voice, but is interrupted by the principal, who delivers a message from Professor Isolde. She summons Vayne and his friends to the depths of the Mana ruins to reveal the dark history of alchemy. At the ruins, Isolde explains that mana are beings embodying elements and concepts like fire, water, darkness, and even emotions. These physical forms are merely vessels for immense power. She reveals a hidden past where alchemists captured and experimented on mana, attempting to harness their energy. But the power proved too much, forcing the alchemists to freeze the mana within the crystals surrounding them. After Isolde leaves, a trapped mana calls out to Vayne for revenge and breaks free from its crystal. Vayne glows blue, triggering the mana's release, and the group battles the enraged mana. Following the light, Isolde is seen mentioning Theophritus, hinting at her connection to him and foreshadowing deeper secrets about Vayne's origins. The journey to understand Sulfur's illness brought Vayne and his friends to the brink, but even as they pushed forward, the full scope of Theophritus' ambitions began to emerge. His final experiment, a culmination of years of alchemical research, promised to grant him his deepest wish, though not without an unforgivable cost that would reverberate into Vayne's present reality. As Vayne contemplates the voice of the mana, Sulfur's health continues to decline, eventually fainting once again. The group seeks help from Professor Isolde, who reveals that Sulfur is dying of old age, a condition which is unheard of for mana. Frustrated and desperate, Vayne and the group head to the Cave of Origins, hoping the life energy of ancient dragons can help Sulfur recover. However, when their efforts fail, Isolde appears, forcing the weakened Sulfur into a battle, marking the final test in her experiment. Although the party manages to defeat Isolde, she achieves her true objective, forcing Sulfur to use up the last of his energy. As Sulfur collapses, he apologizes to Vayne and then passes away, leaving the group in shock and grief. In the aftermath, Isolde remarks that Sulfur was just a normal cat. At that moment, Vayne hears a mysterious voice once again, telling him that his power is to wish. Filled with desperation, Vayne wishes for Sulfur to come back to life, and once more, he glows blue, leaving everyone stunned. Suddenly, a meow is heard, and Sulfur gets back up, filling the party with joy and relief. Following their encounter with Isolde, Vayne's understanding of his past deepened as the veil over Theophritus' last day was finally lifted. The alchemist's greatest and final act was to achieve his heart's desire. Back at the workshop, the others questioned Vayne about how he managed to bring Sulfur back. Unable to answer their questions and feeling cornered, Vayne finds an unexpected ally in Flay, who suggests that they all focus on doing assignments instead. This surprises everyone, as Flay is notorious for never doing his assignments. As the group disperses, Flay tells Vayne he's just giving him some time, showing a surprisingly responsible and considerate side as the leader. Oh, and it's worth mentioning that this is the last free time Vayne will have in the game. Mana Khemia has 8 different endings, one for each character in the workshop. And to unlock a character's specific ending, you need to finish their final character's side quests. While it's a cool feature, completing a character's final quest locks out the endings for all the other characters. So if you want to see multiple endings, you need to make a save file before choosing which character's ending to pursue. Unfortunately, I didn't know that and I didn't do that. So for this playthrough, I'm making Jess's ending canon. The bad ending is considered Vayne's ending, and it occurs if you ignore all the free time and side quests throughout the game. You'll see why later on, as it's tied to Vayne's unresolved struggles in isolation. Isolde arrives at the workshop, instructing Vayne to meet her in the depths of the resource center alone, offering him information about his true identity. Despite Vayne's hesitation, the other workshop members are determined to support and rally behind him, insisting on accompanying him to face Isolde. When they arrive, Isolde reveals that Theophritus passed away 6 years ago. Though he was a renowned alchemist known for his discoveries and significant contributions to alchemy, his brilliance was often met with jealousy instead of admiration. This ultimately led him to leave the academic world and use his alchemy to benefit the public. At last, finding some happiness, Theophritus made a grave mistake while treating a young girl in the town he visited. The girl was suffering from a mysterious illness, and overconfident in his abilities, Theophritus cured her but greatly shortened her lifespan in the process. Consumed with guilt, he retreated to live in seclusion in the forest. Isolde goes on to explain Theophritus' final research, the creation of life itself, a refined form of artificial mana. She reveals the shocking truth that Vayne is not human, but an artificial life form with the power to grant any wish. To prove her point, she kills Jess right in front of the group, forcing Vayne to wish her back to life. When Jess is revived, Isolde's claim is confirmed, leaving the group stunned. It's revealed subtly that she and Theophratus were lovers, and now, in a twisted act of loyalty to defend his honor, she prepares to destroy Vayne, deeming his powers too dangerous to be left unchecked. What follows is another intense battle with Isolde. Similar to the fight in the previous chapter, the party is able to defeat Isolde and she collapses, expressing her regret over Theophratus' death before losing consciousness. They quickly arrange for medical help for Isolde. The chapter concludes with Vayne deeply questioning his own existence and his place in the world. With Theophratus' wish granted, he takes his final breath and asks for Sulphur's forgiveness before passing away. The truth about Vayne's identity has caused an uproar, leaving the principal facing a crisis and even Professor Zappel, Vayne's own homeroom teacher, fearful of him. At the workshop, Vayne is left to ponder his situation and considers leaving the academy on his own. As Vayne searches the campus for his workshop members, he notices students avoiding him, and rumors of his danger spread quickly. Vayne overhears faculty members discussing his possible expulsion due to the threat he might pose, but surprisingly, the vice principal defends him. Unable to find his friends, Vayne returns to the workshop, where he continues to struggle with a sense of self and his powers. He finally reconnects with the mysterious voice, the power that lies within him, and regains his lost memories, revealing Theophratus' last wish. Tormented by guilt for curing Jess and unable to die due to his immortal body, Theophratus had wished for death. The next day, a large structure forms at the academy, and students are quick to blame Vayne. The group decides to enter the structure to confront the threat. Inside, they encounter manifestations of Vayne's memories, Tony and Renee, the Great Beast, and the vengeful Mana that had escaped, all linked to instances when Vayne had unintentionally made wishes. Deeper within the structure, they face an alternate version of Vayne, who reveals that Vayne's deepest wish has always been to disappear along with the school and everyone else. This revelation shocks and saddens the party, especially as it's unveiled that Vayne's wish to disappear was linked to his father's death. As Vayne loses control over his powers, the group must battle the other Vayne, who is compelled to fulfill Vayne's subconscious wish to eliminate everyone. After the battle, Vayne returns to his senses, but still feels the overwhelming urge to disappear. In what appears to be Jess's ending, she confronts him, urging him to not give in to his suicidal thoughts. When Vayne tries to cure Jess via a wish, she expresses disappointment, as that wasn't what she wanted. Through their conversation, Jess is able to talk Vayne out of his despair, and Vayne discovers a loophole in his powers. In a bold move, Vayne wishes to no longer possess the power to make wishes, thereby severing the source of the chaos. However, without Vayne to harness the power, it becomes uncontrollable. In a final effort, Vayne and his companions fight together one last time to defeat the freaky eyeball mana entity that had been responsible for granting wishes. After the battle, Vayne becomes no different from any other human. With his powers gone, he can no longer understand Sulphur's words, although they still share mutual understanding. Vayne and the other seniors graduate from the academy, and the credits roll. After the credits, a scene shows Jess lying in bed, with Vayne by her side, handing her medicine made by Roxas and Anna. It's revealed that 5 years have passed since graduation, and as Vayne had promised, he has been working tirelessly to cure Jess with the help of his friends. Mana Khemia does include a new Game Plus mode, as many PS2 era JRPGs did. While it offers an optional secret dungeon where players can find recipes for even stronger weapons and armor, it doesn't bring any significant new story content or major gameplay changes. Because of this, I didn't feel particularly inclined to dive back in, as the additional content mainly caters to completionists or those who are looking to maximize their character's strength. Mana Khemia, Alchemists of Al-Revis, is a game that excels at blending the charm of school life with the throes of alchemy and JRPG combat, offering a refreshing change from the typical grand adventures found in the genre. While some JRPGs take on majestic, world-saving quests, Mana Khemia opts for a more personal and grounded story set within the confines of an alchemy academy. The narrative may not be as epic in scale as other titles, but it doesn't try to be. Instead, it focuses on the individual journeys of its characters, exploring themes of identity, growth, and self-acceptance. The game's unique approach to character growth, where synthesis and item creation play essential roles, create a distinctive experience that sets it apart from traditional RPGs. The cast of characters, with their quirks and complex personalities, bring the Academy to life, each member adding a blend of comic relief, seriousness, and emotional depth. From Flay's chaotic antics to Roxas's struggle for self-worth, the character-driven narrative allows players to become invested in their stories, even if the stakes aren't about saving the world. The shift in tone throughout the game, enhanced by changes in music and atmosphere, keeps the experience engaging, reflecting the transition from the lighthearted beginnings to the darker themes that emerge. The soundtrack amplifies the mood, with memorable tracks that resonate with the highs and lows of Vayne's journey, while the evolving battle system rewards players for mastering its turn-based strategy. Ultimately, Mana Khemia may not boast a majestic tale of world-saving heroics, but it shines in its own right as a character-driven story that captures the essence of finding one's place and confronting personal demons. Vayne's evolution from a mysterious outsider to a young man who learns to embrace his humanity resonates with anyone who has ever struggled to understand their own identity. In the end, Mana Khemia remains a beloved classic that offers a unique and meaningful experience for fans of the genre, proving that sometimes the most significant journeys are those that help us discover who we are and where we belong, even if the world isn't at stake. Would I recommend Mana Khemia? If you enjoy games where you can craft explosives in a school setting, then yes, absolutely, but with a few caveats. If you're looking for a grand world-saving adventure filled with epic battles and majestic quests, you may find the story's more grounded approach less thrilling. Their narrative isn't about saving the world, but rather about self-discovery and personal growth, while others might miss the grandeur of more traditional JRPGs. However, if you enjoy character-driven stories, alchemy systems, and fast-action turn-based combat with unique mechanics like the time card system, then this game is absolutely worth your time. The workshop and synthesis elements add an extra layer of depth that encourages exploration and experimentation. Plus, the dynamic soundtrack, quirky characters, and school life setting create a distinct atmosphere that sets it apart from the typical JRPG experience. For fans of the Atelier series or those who appreciate JRPGs with a focus on character interactions, Mana Khemia offers a charming and meaningful experience that stays with you long after the credits roll. Its heartfelt story, addictive gameplay, and memorable cast make it a hidden gem that's definitely worth exploring for those open to a more intimate adventure. And that wraps up our deep dive into Mana Khemia, Alchemists of Al-Revis. I hope you enjoyed this journey through its story, characters, and gameplay as much as I did. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and support. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts, or even subscribe for more content like this. I'd love to hear your favorite moments from the game or what you think about Mana Khemia compared to other Atelier titles. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.